My powers as a vampire are growing, the dark has spread across the land, and the Darkstalkers have come to play.
Come.
Hello, this is Sad here, and welcome back to Month of Monsters. Today we'll be talking about another vampire, this one being Demitri Maximoff, Lord of the Darkness from Darkstalkers, also known in Japan as Vampire, appropriately for this week. Demitri Maximoff is the rival of Morrigan Ainsland, also known as that character you've definitely seen fan art of, even if you didn't know she was from Darkstalkers. But Demitri is technically the series lead alongside Morrigan. They are two halves of the same coin. Demitri wants to invade the land that Morrigan's family rules over, and Morrigan wants to make sure Demitri doesn't get that power. Demitri Maximoff, story-wise, has had a long history of being an aggressor in the Darkstalkers world. He wants power and he will take power. However, he is afraid of a few things. That being said, once Morrigan's father Belial Ainsland had passed away, Demitri took that opportunity to spread darkness across the land, allowing the rise of the Darkstalkers and the beginning of the game's story. There were multiple Darkstalkers games released. The three main ones would be Darkstalkers the Night Warriors, Darkstalkers Night Warriors Revenge, Darkstalkers 3. These three games make up the main story. There are other versions of these games that brought in new fighters, but Darkstalkers is actually something that should very much fit the theme of Month of Monsters. You have vampires, you have werewolves, you have zombies, you have Frankenstein monsters, you have succubuses, there's cat people, and then randomly there's a small child who's totally not carrying guns in her basket. Anyways, Darkstalkers is kind of fun. Demitri Maximoff, though, has a legacy outside of it. While not as prominent as other Darkstalkers characters like Morrigan appearing in Capcom crossovers, he did appear in SNK vs. Capcom, as well as Capcom Fighting Evolution. He has been restricted from being in crossovers simply because Dimitri's signature move, the Midnight Bliss, is a move that turns his opponent to the opposite gender, and modeling all that for a crossover game with having to deal with other licensors and other creatives doesn't always work out. However, Demitri Maximoff was the first release in Storm Collectibles' Darkstalkers action figure line, and that is our main subject today.
The Storm Collectibles release of Demitri Maximoff comes in a beautiful box, having the sprite work of Demitri as well as the Darkstalkers logo prominently present. On the side is Dimitri's Vampire Savior key art in an iconic Demitri pose. On the back, we can see that Demitri has multiple different posing options, multiple different accessories. There's quite a lot to this guy because he is quite a hefty price of a figure, but he definitely makes up for it in accessory count. The interior tray of the box features a cardboard backdrop based on one of Dimitri's stages, which would be his castle in Romania. What's really cool is the instruction sheet that shows on how to use all the accessories for Demitri is really stylistically appropriate to Darkstalkers, specifically being the Vampire Savior character select screen design. Demitri stands at a very intimidating 7.5 inches tall. This is a large, very beefy, very weighty figure. As you can see with him next to a Marvel Legends figure, he's going to be sort of a 6-inch to 7-inch scale, even though he is quite large, but he is quite large in the games he comes from. Looking at the details of the default face, Demitri has a very stern expression. He's not happy, but he's not quite angry. He's just displeased. A lot of the accent details of Dimitri's suit are very well done. The white trim around the collars of the wrists, the buttons down the sides of his legs, and the color separation in general is very good. Dimitri's cape is a flat piece of plastic, but it isn't too heavy and it does stay out of the way pretty good. While there is not a cloth option, this works fine for most poses. Articulation-wise, he has a fully ball-jointed neck that can move in several directions. His shoulders move out, they wiggle around, and they pull forward on a butterfly joint. They also can pivot all the way 360 in addition to a bicep swivel and a double-jointed elbow with a wrist joint. His torso crunches forward pretty good. In fact, it's actually kind of amazing how many joints are in there to allow for the crunching of the torso, and that is due to the rubbery chest. Hips move out, forward, they move back, the thighs swivel just slightly, double jointed knee, a lot of muscle meat there, and of course ankles pivot forward, back, left, right, and he has a toe joint. Like I mentioned, the chest on Demitri is very, very rubbery. It's a soft plastic and it's going to move out of the way for any pose, but it is kind of interesting because that whole torso piece is quite a soft rubber and it has a bit of pushback to it. Hand selection wise, Demitri comes with a pair of fists, a pair of open grappling hands. These hands are also a bit squishy if you try to squeeze them. He has another set of gesturing hands that are specific to certain attacks, and he has a set of open hands with 2 extended fingers. Swapping heads on Demitri is a simple task. His first alternate head is definitely an angry expression with his teeth bared. Very, very dynamic and very intimidating. His other expression is probably my favorite. He's in full laughing mode. He is laughing at everything you're doing. Nothing phases him. He is confident and he is laughing at you the entire time. With the extra head and some extra hands, you can actually recreate the Vampire Savior key art, which is on the side of the box for the figure. Demitri also includes 2 energy effects. One is a fireball and one is a bat. These are rendered in a clear orangish yellow plastic and they feel pretty sturdy and they look really, really cool. However, they're not something he can hold. So to accommodate for that, there is a stand with multiple rod options to raise those effect pieces into place for whatever you need them to do. Fire! And once you do, you have Dimitri's fireball ready to go and up on a stand, and it looks really good. Now there's not a smaller fireball option, which I would have liked, but it is just this larger one, but it's very dynamic and you can see the heat trails coming off of it. Add in the backdrop and you get the fireball in a very dynamic sense, and it looks like it's just straight out of the games. And I think that's one of the really cool things about this figure, is that you have that overly muscular style of the artwork. Fire! The bat is a great touch because in Vampire Savior, he throws a fireball that turns into a bat and bites into his opponent. Here it is just a bat. I think it looks great and it's really dynamic and really fun. Dimitri's articulation and his rubberiness does mean he can do certain poses like him bowing, but it's going to be a little stiff when you try to do that. He can cross his arms as a typical Demitri pose, except once again a little bit restrictive due to the over muscle mass of the figure. He can perform the uppercut that he is known for doing. He can also do the side kick pretty good, and the figure, while being incredibly hefty, can still balance on one foot, which I think is incredibly impressive. Usually a figure this muscular and this beefy would be toppling over in one way or another, but he's perfectly balanced, which is really impressive. In general, Demitri Maximoff just looks fantastic. He just has that confidence, the swagger, the feeling of Demitri that you would really expect when playing the Darkstalkers games. It is translated really well into an action figure form, and having all those accessories and articulation points just gives it a full rounded experience. I also love the fact that Demitri is just so expressive. Having that laughing head is just excellent. Like, you can do different poses besides him just fighting because of those expressions, and that's something that's really awesome. Let's play. So overall, while there is articulation limitations due to the muscular design of Demitri, honestly this figure's pretty cool, and as a longtime Darkstalkers fan, it's nice to have a really articulated, fully featured figure like this. We know Morrigan is in the works for this line, but hopefully more Darkstalkers are on the way, because it's such a cool character design pool to pull from, and it really just deserves a great action figure line.
And now that concludes this day of Month of Monsters. Darkstalkers is quite fascinating, and I would have loved to include more of it here, but there isn't much merchandise for that game series. However, tomorrow we will be talking about something grander, something relevant, something that many people may be familiar with. Vampires in comic books. Which ones? You'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out.